Welcome back to the Blindsiders. I am Ben, and I have Dylan and Brian here to talk about episode number 10 of Survivor 50. It is Mr. Beast's time to shine. The episode everyone was anticipating since the Survivor 50 preview was dropped at the end of season 49. There was so many celebrity interactions with the season that were teased, and for better or for worse, the one that I think that stood out the most to people was Mr. Beast. So yeah, what do you guys think? It's very anticipated, and we've come out of the episode now. What are your takeaways, I guess, from Mr. Beast's involvement in Survivor 50?
Go ahead, Brian. You go first. Full disclosure to not to get Brian wound up and then I'll think, oh, one of my tangents. Full disclosure, I'm sick today. I'm a sick boy. Mm-hmm. It's a sick boy stream for me. But then again, last night's episode was some real sicko stuff too. But the show must go on. This is what we call show business. For some of us, when our house is at 100 degrees, we don't record. But for me, when my temp is at 100 degrees, I record. So that's a shot across the bow of Ben, who get along tonight.
Wow.
All right. Well, I'm feeling good. I thought it was a good episode. Do I love that there was a twist that someone could have gotten out of Survivor because of a coin flip? Not really, but it's the new era. I've just softened in my old age, but I'm like, all right, let's get crazy, Jeff. Let's add these things that I wouldn't love, but this is clearly the direction of the show, and who am I to stand in the way of progress, and who am I to stand in the way of the biggest YouTuber of all time coming in and honestly doing a really good job, not getting too involved with everything, just popping in at the auction, popping in a tribal council. He didn't even sit in for the entire tribal council. He just came in, put in some chaos, and dipped. And in the swing vote that I did earlier, I said that, was it potentially a weighted coin? Who's to say? But I think the show definitely wanted, this moment. They wanted to up the price to $2 million for the prize spot. They wanted somebody to be safe and get an immunity idol. And they just wanted this really epic moment. And luckily, Rick Devens was there. And I mean, listen, I don't think it was like explicitly rigged, like they told Rick pick the Mr. Beast logo. But if I'm a reality television producer and I'm potentially weighting a coin, I think I'm putting it on the Mr. Beast logo for the Mr. Beast, incorporated twist. And I think Rick, being a very savvy reality television contestant, probably was like, I'm going to pick the Mr. Beast logo because if there is any shenanigans, it's probably going to land on that. And then it did. I'm not a conspiracy guy, but I'm just saying, if I was in charge of stuff like that, that's what I would have chosen. It's the same reason you put Rupert on Blood versus Water with his wife, who's obviously going to get voted off first, and Rupert's going to switch in because that's the whole point of the mechanic.
I have a lot of positive to say about this episode, but can you imagine a world where the coin lands on the torches and Suri goes home from drawing rocks? Can you imagine? I think that would destabilize the government, the country. I think that a lot of things would really fall apart.
That's the straw that broke the camel's back on the country.
Finally, would be Suri going home to rocks on a forced. I think Beast Games would be sanctioned on a world stage if that happened. It would have been really bad. So I'm glad if it was weighted, whatever. I get the Rick Devens love now. I am a Rick Devens guy after last night. I came into the season saying Rick Devens, really not a big Rick Devens guy. Didn't really watch his season with a full lens. It was background noise while I worked. I was not that excited that Rick Devens was on this season. But I quickly caught on that Rick Devens is somebody who enjoys making good TV. He's somebody that enjoys playing Survivor and having fun. And even though he had some kind of some dumb interactions, he is human after all. That's why we love Survivor and we love natural human interactions instead of kind of like fake meta interactions, which I feel like we got a lot of those in this episode. I get the Rick Devens love now. I am a Rick Devens fan. I think Rick Devens was the MVP of last night. He was a lot of fun. I don't know. I don't know what his game looks like after this long term. He has an idol now. He was safe in tribal last night. I think adding an idol to the $2 million is great. I think we said from pretty early on, we suspected maybe it was increasing the amount to 2 million. So that's great. That makes 50 a lot of fun. I think the idol was a little bit much. I think that I know we talked about it last night. Like, obviously, if you're asking people to do a lot, I think a guy like Rick Devens, who was in a very tough spot in this game, was already in the mood to create chaos. This was kind of like the perfect thing for him to happen. So I think that he definitely moves up my rankings of who I think has a chance of winning this season, while other players that we're going to talk about definitely move down. I don't think the overall hierarchy of the top three has really changed for me at all. But last night was a lot of fun. I like Mr. Beast. I've always liked Mr. Beast. This went about as well as we possibly could have hoped that it went. Really didn't ruin the auction at all. I love the auction too. The auction was great. Last night was just a great episode. It was a lot of fun. I think that the tribal and the intensity at tribal, even though it kind of got disrupted a little bit once everything with Mr. Beast happened, I think that a lot of that was really, really good. Like some of the best stuff we've gotten from tribal in a while. I think the chaos that kind of Rick brought and the pure shock on Stephanie, I think that's like some real old school type stuff that we just don't see anymore. So I'm a big fan of last night's episode. I'm still and always have kind of been a fan of Mr. Beast, but I really appreciated how much he kind of respected the game last night, did not make it about himself. And for a guy that he was coming, I know this will promote Mr. Beast's brand and Beast Games and all that, but for a guy that is coming in here not really trying to sell anything outside of his own brand, to put up what I assume is $1 million of his own money and not CBS's money. I don't know. Maybe it is CBS's money. I have no idea. I think that's pretty cool. And I think that Mr. Beast is okay in my book. I think typically, what always happens with these things is we overreact with anticipation heading into it. We've kind of been scarred to just assume that Survivor will always do the wrong and the worst thing. So this really was a nice change of pace. I just think the idol was a little bit much, but it does kind of add a new threat to the game that I think will change some things. But I think the path that Rick and Emily and the Aubreys chose to go down tonight, I'm just not sure it was overall the best thing to put them in a position to win this game. But it definitely advances them another vote, potentially another multiple tribals. But we'll see about that.
Yeah, I'm kind of mixed on the twist. Specifically, I think the episode as a whole was really good as like a TV product. The twist for me, I think, is like questionably conceived. Ultimately, it kind of just ends up feeling like a shot in the dark, like Rick kind of mentions, right? It's like
a much better shot in the dark.
Yeah, that's 3 times as likely to hit. Which, like, if you conceive of it in that way, I don't have that much of an issue with, and that's how it played out here, which is why I think it worked, because it like basically functioned as a shot in the dark that hits for Rick. And when the shot in the dark has hit in the past, it has been good television, regardless of like whether I fully embody in the shot in the dark as a game mechanic. Right. And so I think that's why it worked here. And then I guess the argument then becomes like, well, every tribal council, whoever feels like they're in the most danger, is just going to take this, because if somebody thinks they're more than 50% likely to be voted out, then they should just objectively take the coin flip. Right. So like, even if you are around 50-50 that you're the one getting voted out, you should probably take the coin flip, because coming into the game with an idol is also probably just better off. So maybe in that circumstance, like the idea that no one would flip the coin seems kind of far-fetched. And so the hypothetical worst case scenario of somebody random draws rocks and then like they go out in like a 1 in 20 situation is probably not that likely. But definitely like there being an on paper scenario where somebody could just like hit a 5%er and go home doesn't feel great. But yeah, I think that it's like a questionably conceived twist that has enough upside that we are able to get what I think is probably the best case scenario outcome from it. Now, do I want to see this twist return? I don't think so. I think that this is like a good one-off. It worked here. This is pretty much as good as the twist is ever going to produce. Any subsequent, instances of this twist occurring, probably not going to be as good.
No, and I think once again, you have at this point we're so broken as a viewer and as Survivor fans, we just expected them to do the worst. So I feel like when you sit back and look at this overall, the episode was great. I don't want to sit here and trash the episode. The episode was a lot of fun. I think it was one of the better episodes of the season. Like I said, it went as well as I think we probably could have hoped it could have gone as fans of Survivor. But just the fact that we're in season 50 and we're still potentially taking votes away from people or potentially having someone go home not through a vote is crazy. But this is a situation, though, where it worked out great. Worst case scenario, whether it was fixed or not, did not happen. So that's good. I'm happy. I'm ready to move on. Like you said, I don't ever need to see this again. But Mr. Beast, yeah, he could tell he was a fan of Survivor and he respected the game. And I think that was very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Daryl in the chat points out that Joe would have said Rick tried to be so cool and got smacked in the face if it didn't go his way. I really love that Joe is just having a horrible time on Survivor 50. I love that he came back and he's not enjoying himself. Very nice contrast to everybody else who is very excited to be there. Don't know why you come back if you had such a traumatic experience on 48 and you seemingly aren't enjoying yourself on 50. But I do appreciate Joe being a stick in the mud. I think shades of Colby on Heroes versus Villains.
I think people are being too hard on Joe. Given Joe, he's miserable. His character for Joe is like a lot of people don't like, the honor and integrity, and I get that.
I certainly don't. Yeah,
I stand on the point. I think we need players like Joe in this game for like the character and like the what it brings to other players. I agree. I agree overall that he does seem miserable now. That picture of everybody jumping when Rick hit the coin and he's just him sitting there. That's very funny. I still like Joe. Do I want to see Joe play again? Probably not. I'm not necessarily the most upset that he's here because I think that he had a lot to turn from 48 to now. He did not change his game, that's the story of life. You can't always get the happy ending. I think that Joe has brought me some happiness and laughs this season. So I'm not completely like why is he here? For you to say everybody else there is having a good time, this is the first time I think I've seen Aubrey smile the entire time she's been on that.
That's fair. Aubrey's also not having a good time.
Aubrey, second MVP of the night, even though I was very kind of zoning out to her. I think this is when I had the realization I was getting sick halfway through this episode. I remember I texted my brother. I'm like, wow, I don't know what Aubrey's going to do. She's going home as they're writing the votes down when it's clearly going to be Steph that's going home. I was kind of a little bit out of it at the end. Aubrey had a great episode. Not to switch away from Joe real quick, but I was very happy with Aubrey. But I'm still a Joe guy. I just don't know if I ever need to see him play again. If we do, it's a guarantee of Joe, you can't play. You got to let people play treacherously. That's what people want overall. But I think that Joe is a character and an archetype that we need in Survivor because I think it meshes in an interesting way with the way everybody else should be playing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we're seeing this season is the things that were kind of loosely hidden in 48 as to why Joe ends up getting one jury vote, right? Like we're kind of getting the behind the scenes look as to why he got only one jury vote in the final trial council of 48, right? Because I think like they couldn't show him in this light because they wanted the Joe and Eva relationship to be shown positively, which is understandable. But I think that did hide a lot of the issues with both Joe and Eva as players, and especially Joe here. I do, though, appreciate him being like an unabashed hater when it comes to Devons. Like I'm never gonna poo-poo anyone who just has like completely seemingly irrational hate in their heart for a single person for like seemingly no reason. I know they had like a argument in the pre-merge when they were on the original trial together, but yeah, it seems so kind of like he's just so blinded by being anti-Devons that he doesn't really seem to be like fully bought into playing the game correctly.
I think that Joe is like, first off, I definitely have thoughts about him immediately running to Suri to kind of give up that Aussie, the Aussie plan. I think that in of itself, that whole, the way that came about was entertaining to watch, but also just a lot of really messy gameplay occurring there. Maybe not necessarily from Joe. I was just very shocked that Joe immediately, without thinking twice, ran to tell Suri. I think it showed that he's pretty locked in, and I think taking that newfound alliance with Tiffany seriously, which that is a plus that I would give him. Tiffany, another MVP, who I was shitting on Tiffany 3 episodes ago. So we apparently are having mic issues on the 1-2, so we'll get that figured out. But I was very happy with Tiffany too. But I think there's a lot to talk about with Joe and everything that kind of unfolded with that vote and Jonathan and all that. But yeah, Joe, I'm rescinding that. I think Joe is in a middle of the pack spot to win this game. I'm officially on Ben's side. Joe is now falling down the ladder, possibly at the very bottom of who has a chance to win the game that is left in this game.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think it's ever been clearer that the man is getting 0 votes at Final Tribal Council again, or when he got 1 or whatever we decided last episode. He's gonna do worse. This one, underrated story, but you know what? I like it when people go on to these shows and are having a bad time. Like Kate from The Traders, always having an awful time, no matter what show she's on, and I love that. And so, you know, I do see people being a little hard on Joe. I don't want to be hard on him. He's probably a very nice guy, but it's just so funny that we're on Survivor 50 and he's struggling with these like Survivor 1 through 10 issues, you know?
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting situation because after 48, a lot of the preseason stuff coming into the season from Joe was him seemingly acknowledging how he needs to change his game. But like, I think that we talked about this with Coach, we talked about a lot of players. Like there is like understanding on paper that you have to change your game, and then there's actually like, you know, making the decisions in the moment in the game that are like kind of against your natural instincts and inclinations. And I think it's just very clear that like even if Joe conceptually understood that he had to change his game coming in, it became like very quickly in like, you know, by like day 3 he was just doing the exact same shit that like got him in trouble in 48. And it's like, yeah, there's like a certain level, especially that quick of a turnaround. There's like a certain level of difficulty in actually implementing a change to your game when the flaws in your game are kind of just a manifestation of personality flaws that you have. Like, because that means that while you're stressed and not eating and not sleeping and in this like really like pressure cooker environment, you have to like be making a concerted effort to go against the things that are an instinctual, like, reflex of your own default personality state. And yeah, Joe's just like, Joe has a lot of aspects of his personality which are, and just like his, him as a person in totality, that make it so he's likely, I think, to go deep in most seasons of Survivor. He's physical, he's like non-threatening from like a cerebral perspective. Like there's a lot of like pieces there that make it so he's like very likely to go deep. But I think that there's just fundamental aspects of him as a person that pretty much make it impossible for him to win Survivor.
Hopefully my issue with the mic has been resolved.
It does sound a lot better, yes.
Fantastic. Let's not forget, Joe, I believe, is getting his own actual reality television show, like down at the firehouse, right? So I think that'll be a very good spot for him. I think that we can appreciate Joe's time over here on Survivor. And like I said, I don't know if we need to see him again, but I hope he gets a lot of success with.
I like
with
that, I like Joe's story. The Eva stuff was nice. Playing for his sister, who was a big fan, very sweet. Not made for Survivor. Not everybody is.
Yeah,
I think he got a very, like you said, I think it's now very clear he got a very favorable edit in 48, and I think maybe some of that had to do with the push to get that Emmy that they didn't end up getting.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of that makes sense to when you then look at Kyle and Camilla's gameplay and why they ended up sticking to keeping everything under wraps the way they wanted to. Because I think you see how Joe is, and it was very clear. Like Joe, and was it David was the other one? Like that mixing of very emotional players that want to like do the right thing. Like I said, I don't want a full season of players like that, but there's always the need for, like you said, for the one player that is very strict about that. And it's also just funny too, because Joe has now turned against his alliance like multiple times this season.
Yeah, right,
so like that's the other hilarious part about this.
Yeah, and like Joe probably could have won Survivor during the first era, like 1 through 10, where this was more of a strategy, but we're so far past that now that there's just no shot what he's gonna do. Yeah, but Daryl points out too, he might beat Boston Rob's immunity record. He can do it this season. I know Ozzy is one away, and he was close tonight. But Tiff, she's great. Like I love that. Tiff had her own kind of narrative story of conquering the 19-day mark and beating it and winning immunity. That was very fun, and I'm glad we're getting more of Tiff here. And she's kind of seemingly slid into the 4th spot of the Rizzo Ozzy Suri alliance, maybe. So, good things for Tiff going on.
Yeah, like I said, well, my mic was cutting out. Tiffany has done a complete 180 for me in this season. I don't think she's in a winning position, but I think she has put herself in a position to potentially be sitting there at the end, though. And really, if you don't think you're going to win the game, or if you maybe kind of know you don't have the space for the rest to be able to move the rest of the game to get in a spot to win, being there in final 3, what I assume will be a final 3. I don't know, given how many episodes we have left and how many people we have left. Maybe we'll have a final 4 or 5 and they'll fight to the death. I literally have no idea how that's going to work out. But I now see a path forward where Tiffany will be in that 3rd seat, either next to Suri and Rizzo or Rizzo and Ozzy, or a combination of those 3 players, which is quite a different position than where I saw her, 2 weeks ago when I said I wasn't sure why Tiffany was on this season. So big fan of Tiff. She's really turning around. I'm happy to see it. That was a great win for her. Kind of like a great speech of her saying she won to make it past day 19. And she's kind of like, she has Joe seemingly, and then she kind of seems to have put herself in a really decent spot with Suri, and she had that relationship with Aubrey from the very beginning too. So good for Tiff. Good for Tiff. I'm glad that she's kind of figured it out.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can see that. I think that there's the issue with kind of like Tiff's position is it feels like it would be an uphill battle for her to get into a final 3 that doesn't include at least one of Suri or Ozzy, and I don't think she can beat either of them in a jury vote at this point. So that's kind of like, that would be the issue she has to get past, I would say. But like, I mean, there's like, if it was like her, Joe, like Rizzo, like maybe she can win that. Maybe she can win that if it's like Emily's there and Joe. Maybe she can win it if it's like Jonathan and Joe there, depending on like where the targets are prioritized now. I would say like Emily and Aubrey are probably the more likely people to be targeted in the final 9 coming up here, with Devon's having an idol. Some kind of like split vote situation where like Emily or Aubrey takes the hit seems likely. So who knows? But I do think that there is win equity there for Tiffany. Obviously, based on her edit, I don't think she can win. But I think positionally, she's put herself in a position where she has at least a bit of win equity. So really impressive, especially coming to the merge with like down in the numbers, not really having a foothold.
I think the winner, whoever wins the season, if it's not Suri or Ozzy, has to take out both Suri and Ozzy. And I think that goes for Rizzo now too. I think one of us, I know it wasn't me, one of you said it last week that Ozzy has maybe moved himself up to that 2 spot. I would put him there as well. I think that he's very well liked among everybody that is there. He's a big threat. He's in a very good spot. He still has that idol. So like, and I think it's good till final 5, right? So Ozzy has put himself in a very good spot. Rizzo has not declined. I just think Ozzy has kind of leapfrogged because I think Rizzo is still playing a very, very good game. I do wonder if people on the island are a little annoyed with Rizzo and kind of like that whole they talked about it on Tyson's podcast before. I always reference Tyson's podcast. It's pretty much like my go-to because it's really the only other Survivor podcast I listen to, of players purposely playing up for things so they get more screen time. And I think that Rizzo has kind of grossly done that a lot recently. I still love him. I still think that he's been playing fantastic this season. But I think that if somebody is going to win, they need to get Suri and Ozzy out. And I don't think it's really a possibility outside of this right now for anybody else to win. If they did, the edit has been grossly misrepresenting what is happening in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely want to talk about this. Is Aubrey better for Suri, Ozzy, Rizzo than Stephanie would have been? Like, is Stephanie going to make a move on that trio in the same way that Aubrey could potentially do it? Because I do see a lot of people, Daryl mentioned it here, she's getting a winner's edit. I don't see the winner's edit for Aubrey, but I do see Aubrey as a more dangerous player than Steph, even with the steal of vote.
I mean, I think that from like a positional perspective, I think Jonathan was probably the more reasonable vote out. But I think that Ozzy probably has a better relationship with Jonathan. I think that they probably took Stephanie's like lying kind of personally. I think that Stephanie probably is seen as a more viable jury threat amongst that kind of set of people. Would probably be all the reasons that I would say that Stephanie was likely targeted here. I don't know what is going on with Aubrey from like a storytelling perspective and from a gameplay perspective, like, because I've seen a lot of people like jumping on the Aubrey is a winner's edit after like one episode of her having positive content. When the first 9 episodes she's had like exclusively negative content. It's kind of bizarre.
The confessional this episode where she's talking about Michelle and how she's gonna try to be more like Michelle.
Where she incorrectly describes why she lost to Michelle and incorrectly describes the reasons that Michelle is good at Survivor, and then she describes how she's going to do something similar to Michelle and then doesn't actually execute it at all in this episode. Is that confessional? That to me does not indicate a winner to me. That indicated a Mitch edit, which is what I feel we're getting from Aubrey.
I also think, and outside of just you, Daryl, shout out Daryl, #1 fan. I love that Daryl's here every week. Very much appreciate you, Daryl. I'm not, and this isn't directed just at you, Daryl. I think a lot of people are reading too much into that clip being shown in terms of where Aubrey's heading for the rest of this game. because I think we saw the similar clip brought up for Christian when he was voting on Mike White with the evidence with the clip with Gabby. That and the comparison with Emily, that really didn't play out at all the rest of the season. I think obviously Emily just kept Emily flipping Emily. She did keep. I think it was. I forget it was after that. No, because that was the same episode Mike White went home. So that's when Emily told about Mike White and all that to Ozzy. And then that didn't end up playing out more so with Emily and Christian. I'm not saying that that's not going to happen with Aubrey, but I definitely agree with you, Ben. I don't think Aubrey is aware of the reasons she lost her season. I love Aubrey. We all love Aubrey. We've been very disappointed with her performance so far in the season to this point. I agree. Her edit is turning around a little bit. She is still very much, to me, kind of like the little like sad lamb of the tribe, just kind of like always out there moping. But this was a great episode talking about her kids, because we've talked about before playing Survivor when you're I can imagine it's like being a mother away from your kids, especially I think this was the first time. So like that is an emotional toll. And she kind of started to talk about that a lot more today with like the mac and cheese and all that. And that was all awesome and kind of gave a little bit more context to what has been going on with her. But what is her move to kind of correct what happened in Calrung with Michelle and Ty? Like, what's her move to then take out Cirie, Ozzy, Rizzo? That is her move. That's what she has to do. But to take out Cirie, Ozzy, Rizzo, and then have to go after Devins, because I think even after tonight, potentially Devins is probably in a better spot to win this game than I think she is. Devins just put his entire game on the line, so the winner can get an extra $1 million. And I don't know. Like we got a clip of Aubrey talking with Jonathan today, and I think that's kind of the discussion I want to steer more towards too, of the choice for Aubrey, Rick, and Emily to go with Cirie and Ozzy over Jonathan and Steph. I think there's obvious reasons why they did that, and then I think there's questionable reasons why they did that. I don't know what Aubrey's path forward is. She's gonna have to take out. I don't think that Aubrey beats Devins in a final three. I don't think that Aubrey even beats Rizzo in a final three right now. I generally don't. I think that there's a potential chance that she can't beat Tiffany. I would put Aubrey right now probably ahead of Joe and Emily, and I don't think that there's anybody else below Aubrey after that. And is she in a better?
But maybe not.
Now I do. So now I do think she beats Jonathan. So I know I said Jonathan.
I agree with you. Very, very small pool of people that I think she's likely to beat in the jury vote.
So, I am no longer putting Jonathan as my fourth favorite to win this season. I'm getting out ahead of that now. I have thoughts on Jonathan. I have some defenses of Jonathan, but Jonathan is, yes, I would probably put Jonathan. I would put Jonathan, Aubrey close, but yeah, maybe I could see Aubrey being ahead of him. But yeah, Aubrey needs to start doing a lot, I think, but at the same time, like, I don't know how this jury's going to react to somebody all of a sudden just completely flipping their game on this late and starting to tarnish their games. Like, I don't know how that's going to play out. Once again, edit-wise, Ozzy, Cirie, and Rizzo, they're the only people that make sense to be winners at this point from an edit standpoint. I know you can't always pay attention to the edit, and I know it's kind of, like, stupid sometimes to just focus solely on the edit, but, like, it has been so one-sided the past couple weeks towards that threesome that it's kind of hard not to do that. So I love that Aubrey's coming alive a little bit, but let's also not pretend that she had like this insane episode of like strategic moves and manipulation. Like, she had some great confessionals with the auction. I think all that was great, and she got a lot more screen time, and that was all awesome. But like, her game is not in a fantastic spot right now. She's on the bottom of a threesome with Devins and Emily, and she could pull in Jonathan. I don't know what that's going to do right now, unless Emily decides to then flip, or unless Cirie decides to then start taking out Like, I don't know the path forward for her. I really don't. So I love it. I love Aubrey. I just don't think that I don't think she has the equity to win this game.
I'll play devil's advocate for the Aubrey case, because of the way idols work this season. There is a very clear shot you can take at Cirie. She can't win a challenge. She's never going to win immunity. Ozzy and Rizzo can't give him their idols to Cirie. One of them would need to, give her the necklace. I don't think Rizzo can win a challenge. He's like a walking skeleton. So it'd be all on Ozzy to potentially do it. You get Jonathan, who's unrelated to everybody now. You get Devins and Emily, and you get Joe, and you take a shot at Cirie. And all of a sudden, Cerie's not there to guide Rizzo and Ozzy, and Aubrey could potentially be the best remaining player left. Maybe Emily Flippin, maybe Rick Devens, but those two are together. Rick's a huge target. That's my path for Aubrey. She takes control of the game, snipes out Cerie, and then there's really no commensurate strategic threat to oppose her. I don't know if that will happen. I don't think it will happen, but that's the path.
But Cerie has an extra vote as well still.
Cerie has an extra vote, sure, but she has to know to play it next round.
Yes, and I think that we just saw in this episode that Joe, when handed this plan to get out Ozzy, immediately ran it back to Cerie and told her because he hates Devens that much and is loyal to Cerie. So that feels like a huge stretch to me.
I'm just trying to be devil's advocate.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree.
In the game, if I'm in Aubrey's position, this is what I would try to do. As much as I love Cerie, you need to get Cerie out.
No, I agree. It feels very much like Cerie, Ozzy, Rizzo have the game kind of sewn up, and it would be like a huge upset at this point. I think for them to not, but all three in the end game.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's going to be Ozzy or Cerie winning this season. But
in the preview for next week, it looks like Aubrey's saying something. That's been the preview for the last 4 weeks. Okay, yeah. Aubrey has had a confessional in the last 4 weeks talking about flipping the game, and it's been in the preview for the episode every single time. She's done nothing. I'm sorry.
Is she getting the Mitch edit?
That's what I said earlier. I said that I think that Aubrey's had the Mitch edit. I think that's what we're getting. I think that the merge is just going to be completely run by Ozzy, Cerie, Rizzo from front to back, and in order to create some suspense to make it seem like it's not just a strategic stomp, which is what I think it's going to end up being, they have to introduce Jonathan as like a potential like strategic player, like by pumping up his game with like an inflatable pump to make him look like a bigger threat so that he becomes some kind of enemy that has to be taken down. And they have to pump up Aubrey as like a potential like alternative winner option in this like kind of late game episodes when it's literally, I think, just going to be Cerie or Ozzy.
I don't want to cause panic either. There is like we are on a potential timeline where another advantage get-in happens to Cerie. Just want to point out we have 3 idols that are left in play. We have the extra vote from Cerie, but also what if it's a situation where somebody else wins an immunity? Say Jonathan. Ozzy has an idol that he realizes he needs to play. I don't know the situation numbers-wise how this would work out, but technically it is a possibility that we have another advantage get-in that like we're kind of getting to. Well, the last thing I will say,
I might stop watching Survivor if Cerie gets advantage getting out twice. That might be a bridge too far. The Blindsiders might be without me going down the future because that would suck.
I do. Survivor does not owe any of these players anything in terms of like the game itself. Aubrey does not like have to. It's not like storybook rules. Like Aubrey does not get to have a happy ending just because that's what will make us happy. There's like a good chance that Aubrey could potentially be a 0-1 vote finalist sitting there with like the Cerie or Ozzy or Rizzo. Like that third chair on Final 3 is so interesting to me because it could really be like the ultimate GOAT chair, more so than others, where it's just like you're literally the last person standing from a bloodbath that occurred between Rizzo, Ozzy, Cerie, and maybe like a Devens. Like I just, the more we talk about it, I think that it's just a little bit too late for her. But I don't know. Once again, same thing, sort of similar thing with Tiffany. If you don't think you have a chance to win, like you still want to fight to get there to that Final 3 and be there on that final tribal. So like, I hope we still get the fire from her, but like one episode for me, as great as it was, have her get more airtime, is not going to all of a sudden have me declare Aubrey the stealth winner of this season.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see if they do take a shot at Cerie. I think Aubrey, Devens, Emily are the only players who would do it at this point. Maybe Jonathan. I don't know. Who's gonna go with Jonathan? Like who's following him into battle? on a game plan. So like it's getting down to it. Like if no one takes a shot at Suri in the next episode or two, lock it up.
I do definitely want to I'm Daryl. I'm also I feel 100% confident saying Joe or Emily have almost precisely 0% chance of winning this game at this point. I think that feels like, and then I guess you could probably throw Jonathan in there maybe after this too. I just don't know how the jury is going to react to Jonathan, but I feel like he's done pretty poor jury management this week and last week. So, but I definitely want to talk about what ultimately was really like the more important gameplay ordeal this episode, which was Jonathan and Steph wanting to go after Ozzy, telling Joe, thinking they have Joe. Then obviously Joe then goes to tell Suri, and then all hell breaks loose. I, in Jonathan's defense, and this is actually going to be going after Steph here. We talk about people needing to make a move. Even if it was maybe potentially the wrong person you initially told to, going after Ozzy is the right move here. With the caveat, you just lost Coach and Chrissy 2 tribals ago. You did get out Christian. Why in the world would you not try to hold on at least to one more vote and focus on an Emily or Devins? That blows my mind. I think that is like the most fatal flaw of this entire thing, and why I think that Jonathan, any sort of like win equity I thought Jonathan had completely went out the window, was because I think you basically just took, unless they really read that they knew a player like Emily or Devins really just weren't going to work with them, even though they went to Devins to try to get this to flip to work towards Ozzy, because they just assumed Devins was like this dead wounded bird waiting to die there, which is once again Stephanie and Jonathan, but way more so Stephanie, had absolutely no read on what was going on in this game. Like they had no read on what was going on with their alliances. Steph particularly, we saw her with multiple confessionals. Love Steph. I was very glad she was back this season. Had multiple confessionals where she just had no clue what was going on. And I think like we saw with Christian when they were trying to vote out Coach, like being like, you like trying to boss Christian around, trying to get Christian's vote to vote out Devins. It just really was very unfortunate. She had absolutely no. Stephanie was stuck playing in the teens and 20s of Survivor when she was in this season, which is like you're dead in the water when that happens. But Jonathan, like I agree with you, Ben. I think the edit was probably trying to prop him up way more to make of a less obvious power trio that's going to be marching to the end. And I think that I definitely maybe fell a little bit blind to that. I'm still a Jonathan fan. I feel 100% confident we will see Jonathan play again. I think there's a lot of hatred towards Jonathan, and I don't mean this for you, Ben. I think a lot of hatred like online towards Jonathan of shit that has absolutely nothing to do with Survivor, that kind of taints people's views of him. But I think that was like the most fatal flaw for Jonathan here, was to decide to go after Ozzy now when you were down 2 people. You got Christian out last week, and then you're immediately trying to go after somebody who you thought was a number to vote with you, whether you knew how close he was with Suri and with Rizzo and whatever's going on there. So that was pretty disgusting. Joe immediately running, I think, was crazy too, but I think that he was just so glued in with Tiff at that point that I think that maybe it made the most sense to him. But I don't know. And I don't know the move of Devins and Emily and Aubrey deciding to go with Suri and Ozzy and Rizzo. Once again, maybe they're just playing that well that people don't realize how close those 3 are. But overall, it's just like really, really, really sloppy gameplay, kind of like by that group as a whole.
Yeah, no, I know that like what I saw was, we know that Jonathan got some Boston Rob coaching before the season, but and I've seen people say that like he's playing like Boston Rob but without the charisma to like make it work, which I think is not a terrible take. And what that ultimately leads to is the comparison that I've been making, which I am comparing him to Russell, but without actually any kind of success. Where all of the bulking of his like strategic acumen is just bloviation and confessionals as opposed to actual like on-screen results. because he's been on the wrong side of the vote 3 out of 6 times that he's got to a tribal council. Like, that doesn't happen to a good player. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. Like, he's just like, he's playing hard, but like playing hard doesn't equal playing good if the things that you're trying to do with your aggressive gameplay are not successful. So I appreciate that he's playing hard. I would rather bad players play hard and fail than kind of do a little bit of what Stephanie did, which is like kind of play a little cowardly and, you know, not actually like try to take meaningful swings, or when they do take swings, they try to back out of it, or they try to like, pontificate that they're not actually playing the game, or they like kind of talk out of both sides of their mouth. Like, this is the reason why I really like 46 in the season, right? Because like 46 is chock full of bad aggressive players, and that's kind of what makes it fun, is everyone's playing really hard and like, making a lot of mistakes. And yeah, I could even compare this to like last season of Big Brother, for instance. Big Brother 27 was chock full of bad aggressive players, and it's a very fun season. Like, it makes good TV when people are playing hard, and whether or not they're successful or not doesn't really matter. So I appreciate Jonathan being on the season and trying to win, trying to make things happen. But like, if I'm just looking at it on paper objectively, he has not been successful in executing much of his gameplay, and his view of his game is completely warped.
Do you think that he has progressed his gameplay from 42 to now?
I think that he's had to play differently, because in 42 he was largely in the majority, and he did make like similar aggressive plays in 42 to like again kind of mixed result, and he kind of ended up just in a position in the end game where he was kind of just being outplayed by Marianne in particular, and even in that end game as well, like, he was being outpositioned by Omar when it comes to Mike. Like, there was like a lot of things kind of going on there. But like, he didn't, I guess, have to really contest with the idea as much in that season of being like out of the know of what's going on in general. Like, he was generally in the know of like the bulk of the strategy that was happening up until the end game at the very least. And here, for like the last 4 or 5 rounds, he's been pretty frequently like on the verge of being completely on the outs of knowing what's going on. So I think that like he's handled it well, and that he's still in the game, I guess, but like he's that it's definitely like the circumstances of the season have forced him to play differently.
So I agree with Daryl. I think his social game has probably been the biggest improvement for me. You can maybe potentially argue his physical game, for whatever that's even worth anymore, has probably declined a little bit. He was never a fantastic individual immunity challenge performer, but I feel like I'm very surprised by how stinky he's been. He's kind of always hung in there, but he's never been able to kind of finish it. So I hope to see Jonathan again. There's going to be a lot of people that don't want to see Jonathan again. There's going to be a lot of people that don't want to see anybody from this season again. Unfortunately, there are going to be players from this season. I assume the Rizzos, potentially the Jonathans, maybe even the Tiffs that we will see again.
Locked in for a third appearance after last night.
You might be right. So I think Jonathan, it's a very interesting comparison, maybe to Boston Rob. I don't think he has, to get hyped with the kids, the aura that Boston Rob had in his time. But I think that he has progressed, and Jonathan is a player I like, but I fully acknowledge I might have been slightly delusional for his standing, his win equity in the game the past couple weeks. Because like I said, I think you hit the nail on the head, Ben. I think that maybe the edit was trying to make him look a little bit better to kind of be an adversary to the Surrey and the Aussies that are still in the game.
Yeah. We'll see, though. I mean, my reading of this, if we don't get a Surrey or Aussie win this season, and we do get like some kind of what I would consider random person winning the season, like I would have to like probably rewatch the season to have some kind of understanding of what the fuck was going on, because it would be kind of perplexing to me. It's like I see them do that for like a non-returning season. But like historically, at the very least, with returning player seasons, they've gone out of their way to make the winner look like they're strategically competent. Like even in like the kind of like, you know, middling cases, like you have like Heroes vs. Villains with Sandra, like they do still go out of their way to put like every possible piece of Sandra trying to play the game and like whether she succeeds or not, like in there. Like they make a big deal in the pre-merge out of Sandra flipping the vote from, you know, from Courtney onto Coach, for instance, and like kind of like duping Russell by lying about Coach turning against him when he wasn't. Like despite that not really being a major, having any kind of major impact in the season, because Coach and Courtney just kind of go back to back anyways, and neither of them make the merge. They like hyper focus on that as a strategic play that succeeds for Sandra that undermines Russell. And they just haven't done that this season with anybody other than Suri and Ozzy, and like to a lesser degree Rizzo. So like it would just feel so out of left field for anyone but those three to win.
Yeah. And they also had a lot of Sandra trying to help the heroes.
Yeah.
And the heroes rejecting her. And so it kind of became like, well, I tried, you know, even though she didn't get Russell out at that point.
And in every other returning player season, the winner has been like a main strategic focal point. Like All-Stars, Amber and Rob ran the game. They were the final two. You know, Micronesia, Black Widow Brigade ran the game. They were the final three. You know, we have like Boston Rob and Redemption Island ran the season front to back. He's the winner. You have Kara Moen, Dawn and Cochran run the game front to back. They're the top two. You know, like Cambodia, Jeremy is shown as like a pretty heavy strategic favorite and mastermind through a lot of the game. He's the winner. Sarah Lucina, the same thing. Like Tony, the same thing in Where Is That War? Like there's just no example of a returning player coming and winning a game in like a really kind of random what the fuck way. They always go out of their way to make them seem strategically competent at the very least. So it would be very, very out of left field for that not to be the case here for me.
See a lot of talk in the chat. Rizzo's going to have to start turning on Cerise soon. Yeah. Something has to.
I don't think Rizzo's going. I don't think Rizzo's going to win. I think being so thin at the beginning of season 49 is really working against Rizzo at this point. I think that boy is tired.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I just think that he's just in an awkward situation here where like the game is kind of set up for him to ride into an endgame with Suri and Ozzy, but like he just loses to both of them in a jury vote, and it's going to be kind of a very difficult ordeal for him. Like he would have to get out Suri at 5 and Ozzy at 4, which means that because Ozzy's going to play his idol at 5, right? So like assuming that Ozzy's idol does not get flushed before 5 and the three of them make it into the end game, like his like the pieces that he has to put in place for him to be the winner at this point, it's very kind of ticky-tack, and I just don't really see that happening, which is why I've in the last 3 or so weeks switched to I think Ozzy is the winner, because you know I think like in the people who are likely to be in the end game, I think Ozzy is the favorite to win challenges. I think Ozzy is one of the favorites to win a jury vote right now. He has the idol, which despite being a name that was tossed about in the last 2 weeks, he still hasn't had to play. It's not impossible. He's able to keep his idol till 5, win immunity or fire at 4, and then just win the game. Like that to me feels like the likely outcome.
Here's it too, Brian. Making it this far in this season after immediately playing, you know, it's Russell deserves the props for how far he went in Heroes vs. Villains for immediately playing right after. Rizzo deserves the props. This is still very impressive. I still give Rizzo a chance, but I agree. I think Suri, we talked about tiers. Suri and Ozzy are probably now tier S. Rizzo's probably tier A. And then we got like Devin's tier B, and then like so on and so forth. So yeah, I agree with that. One thing I saw in the chat too that I just wanted to quickly touch on, that our super fan Daryl said when I was talking about Steph and kind of like the direction of why Devins in that group would want to go with Sari and Ozzy over Jonathan and Steph, because like I feel like Jonathan and Steph would be much easier to manipulate and get out towards the end. I guess like maybe you're worried about immunity at that point, but I'd be far more concerned about Ozzy than I would be with Steph and Jonathan. Daryl said Steph said that the scramble before tribal was a lot and we didn't see the end of it. And before they went to tribal, they all came clean to each other about their plans and went back to the Devins plan. And then Devins heard about that plan and went back to him, and it went back to him, and that's why he did what he did at tribal. I mean, I guess it would make sense. Ozzy, I like going after Ozzy this season really has been the kiss of death for pretty much everybody. Emily's really been the only one to throw his name out there and really not be the one to go home. So yeah. I guess I don't know how. Obviously I don't know the full truth to that, because I'm sure Steph, who had a pretty terrible read on what was going on in the game, maybe had like the assumption that was what the plan was, and maybe the plan was always then to go after Steph. I don't know. I am very in the middle of do Devins and Emily and Aubrey have a better chance to put themselves further in this game sticking with Sari and Ozzy or sticking with Jonathan and Steph? And I feel like sticking with Jonathan and Steph, when you have the numbers of that group, makes far more sense. But I don't, Emily's a very emotional player. Emily doesn't want to work with people she doesn't like. She has like pretty much said as much when she's in there in the game. Like I think Devins, like I Devins and Jonathan, I think have like kind of friendly been like jabbing each other, but maybe it was real. I think that blow up, like I don't know. I feel like on paper it makes far more sense to them to want to side with Jonathan and Steph, but also maybe that threat of that idol with Ozzy really was enough to kind of like determine that for them.
Also, not for nothing with Rizzo, and I, like Rizzo. And I kind of appreciated him calling the Honor Integrity Alliance out. That's the jury, dude. Like, you can't be, so antagonistic to the people who are going to be on the jury other than Christian. That's tough. You're burning votes. Steph's going to go back to Ponderosa, be like, Rizzo, what a jerk. The coach is going to be like, yeah, what a jerk. Chrissy, same thing. And, also, and this isn't in Rizzo's control, do these players want to give the new guy $1 million or $2 million? Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
they hated Russell. They hated Russell on Heroes versus Villains for probably rightfully so. They're like, we could have a whole off-season podcast discussing everything with Russell, and I think that actually is a good idea. Write that down, Brian.
Listen, I've been in the Survivor community. I've talked too much about Russell.
I
don't want to talk about Russell ever again.
I will do a one-man show talking about Russell. I'll build boots on the street. I'll go somewhere in Louisiana or wherever the hell Russell's from and get down there.
If we can get Russell on the podcast, sure. But I don't want to have a whole thing talking about Russell. Dylan, having lived through it in bed, it's a lot. It's too much.
Yeah, I mean, years ago, I wrote like an entire piece on, I think, like Core or something. Like I wrote like basically like a full article explaining why Russell is bad at Survivor. I stand by it. I think Russell is really bad at Survivor, and it's just like there's like a couple of marginal aspects of Survivor he's good at that like get hyperinflated, but on the bulk of it, I think he's a really horrible Survivor player.
I think, and this is now, we're talking, shout out Brian Wong, getting some real inside information here. I didn't want to forget my shout out Brian Wong, so I'm throwing it out there when it has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about. Behind the scenes stuff, I think that'll be a real numbers driver for us. So maybe that's something to consider, of just putting up some ridiculous TikTok clips that we can use. We'll talk about that off the air.
Care about Russell Hansen?
I think that Russell has a fan base that will engage with us, whether we like it or not. If we bring up Russell's name, I think that there are still a lot of Russell peers.
I feel like 10 years ago we did.
I think that there are.
I think he's burnt his goodwill with the Survivor community like many times over.
I think you are underestimating somebody. I'm not. Obviously, you guys have been in the Survivor world far longer than I have, and I think you're underestimating now how many different factions have split out on things like TikTok and on Reddit threads of like Russell is on Mount Rushmore of players things like that. So I
I
think
love
that
I can't do this again.
maybe I'm in the underbelly
I can't do
of online, which is a very real possibility. I'm starting to mute communities so I don't see this stuff anymore. I promise you, there are people out there who have had these arguments and discussions recently. So we can have a
it's just, and I think Ben, you'll agree. It's played out. We know what Russell is. We know he's never going to win Survivor. We know he's kind of a dick in real life.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
At the very least, rehashing the Aubrey and Michelle stuff is culturally relevant to what's going on in Survivor right now. Rehashing the Russell stuff seems so unnecessary.
We'll talk about it. Coming this summer,
on...
the one-man show on Russell Hands, brought to you by DJ Clubber like Dylan. So we'll see.
You can find Russell working the gift shop at the Mount Rushmore of Survivor. He's not on the actual Mount Rushmore.
But by the way, I am not one of these people. So I'm not. This isn't like me slowly coming out that I'm like this Russell defender. That is not at all what this is. I understand why he lost Heroes versus Villains. I am a Parvati truther. Parvati should have been the winner of Heroes versus Villains. I understand overall what happened with Sandra and why Sandra won. I think Sandra is a bad winner for Heroes versus Villains. Put that clip on TikTok, Bride. But I get it. I get not wanting to talk about Russell. Summer 2026. My one-man show at Russell Hits. Daryl, I'll count on seeing you there too. You too, Brett. We could just trash Russell together. Whatever. So we need the numbers. We got to keep the momentum going.
It's just for me. It's just because we lived through Russell Hands live, and all the discussions and the years of he's the best player to never win, and then him getting completely crushed on Redemption Island and Australian Survivor. He was a fun novelty. He progressed the game in some ways. Hunting for idols without a clue was definitely unique for the time, and give him credit for that. The Foa 4 had an amazing run, but he doesn't understand Survivor, and he can never win it because he doesn't understand it.
No, I get it. And overall, the guy seems like he just sucks in real life. So that's also kind of I talk about not.
I'll put it this way: Brandon Hans had a better chance of winning South Pacific than Russell Hans ever had a chance of winning Survivor.
Yep.
We'll see you this summer to talk about. I guess to cap it off, great episode. Survivor, not this podcast. I guess a pretty good episode for the podcast. Very happy to see Brent. Brent, keep coming back. Keep hanging around. We love to have more people to talk to while we record this.
Like you, Dylan, one of my best work besties from back in the day. So
awesome.
Really appreciate Brent stopping by, and Daryl. And we used to block out meetings just to talk about Survivor on Thursdays.
Daryl, by the way, I haven't forgotten From. I've made it a note in my life because you like From so much. I will eventually watch From. Speaking of this summer, I'm very big on binging shows during the summer when you're sitting in AC. So I will make a note to watch From just for you. So
yeah, me too. I do. I always think about it too. I'm like, I gotta watch From for Daryl. I gotta check it out. And Michael from Lost. Love him.
That's it. Wicked good show, right? Not unless you guys have anything else to talk about Survivor. I feel like we gotta not to overtake ending the show here.
No,
I sound like complete shit.
I think Cerise playing the best game that I've seen in the last 20 seasons of Survivor. So I hope she can close it. I don't think she can, unfortunately, but I hope that I hope that the cards fall in the right way. But it is unfortunately a artifact of her inability to win challenges or make fire or not be seen as a huge jury threat that is probably going to make it impossible for her to win. But I think she's put herself into arguably the best possible position to win a season that a lot of people came in expecting her to have 0% chance to win. So very impressive. One of the best to ever do it.
I came into this season a Devon's hater, and I said that Suri had 0% chance of winning when we did our draft. Turns out you guys know Survivor, and I am still navigating these lands. So root for Sari. I think that'll be very, very good for Survivor. I think it'll be a great win. Like you said, Ben, it's one of the more dominant wins if she can pull it out that we've seen in Survivor in a long time. So that'll be great. From my side, obviously, Wicked Good Show will be back next week. Brian and I may have forgotten to record it this week. We will not forget that next week. We'll be live.
I was playing MLB The Show. I'm sorry, I got lost in it.
That's all right. I was I was like 9 o'clock at night. I'm like, I think Brian and I were supposed to record that podcast tonight. So that'll maybe be our summer show. But Wicked Good Show, same network, better radio. Stick around there. I think the plan kind of is to do Survivor all summer, right? Like maybe it might not be every week, but I think that we want to continue putting out episodes. I have slowly, and by slowly, I mean I've talked to 2 people in the Survivor community outside of this podcast, started to reach out to more people to want to get interviews out. I think that if I reached out to my friend Denise from that watch party, I think that Denise would join us. I think that'd be a lot of
I'd love to have
interview.
Denise. She's great.
I'm
interested if she remembers Ben and I.
That could be. She was at Auburn's watch party last night. Which
that looks like fun. Good group. I would love to have Jake on the podcast also.
So Jake is apparently people are like very open to just coming to talk to whoever. I've seen not to like shame other podcasts. I think we all small podcasts need to unite and support each other. I've seen like pretty major Survivor players go on some like podcasts I've never heard of. And kind of like had some really good interviews. So I think that's something we can take advantage of. That could be really fun for us.
I think it'd be good that you're like pushing us because Ben and I are very like, we'll just do it ourselves.
Yeah, I think Brian and I are both very anti-network.
Yeah, we're locked into the live feeds of Big Brother all summer. You know, we are good at reaching out to people.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'd love to start doing that. Maybe get some people that we've met through the Survivor community, Ben, that we could have on. Chris from Survivor New York is going to come on at some point this summer. He's got a new season of his show coming out. Then there will be a live stream season this summer as well for Survivor New York. So go check that out on YouTube, Facebook, all the social medias. I think they got TikTok now. Great product. Ben and I, alumni of that. Dylan, maybe future alumni?
Maybe
Survivor New York.
Yeah, I follow them on Instagram mostly to try to keep up with what's going on. So
we'll see if I really woo them when we talk to them on the interview. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, well, if nothing else, I think you can get a good word from Ben and I. A suggestion.
Yeah, I will.
But it's close.
I will officially be spinning a Survivor tape, which I've chickened out and doing. I am doing that too. So if I have to disappear at some point next spring, early summer, you know where I am, and it's not.
That would really help us with views when you come back.
That's why I don't want to become too corporate. Maybe I got to be careful of trashing Jeff in production.
I've accepted I'll never get on the show for all the shit I've talked about Jeff over the years, which is okay.
So unrelated, I did want to talk about how handsome Jeff looked in this episode. Unrelated. So yeah, I think
Jeff looked.
This will be a very fun summer for us. I think we'll keep the momentum going. I'll keep Ben and Brian motivated. Shout out Brian Wong. Brian Wong is always listening to the podcast. Daryl will keep
trying to convince us to talk about Russell Hantz and uncover our Survivor PTSD of the Russell Hantz era.
Let's set that narrative that was Brian Wong who initiated that with me, even though he had absolutely nothing to do with it. Blame Brian Wong, long time listener.
Brian just watched Samoa and Heroes versus Villains for the first time.
Yeah, that is always fun though when you see people who are like watching old seasons and they're discovering discourse that happened 15 years ago.
Yeah. Like Ben said, the Russell one was huge. The Aubrey versus Michelle, the Survivor community almost tore itself apart on that. So yeah, maybe that could be a podcast. We do a mini or like little segments of like the most interesting discourses that Ben and I have been a party to over the years.
My most
get Dylan's like reaction for like the first time on some of these discourses.
When I watch like older seasons, my new favorite thing is like if they're a new enough older season, then I go and I find the Reddit discussion thread that's specifically for that episode that I just watched.
Yeah.
Some like real hot takes in some of those. So those are a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm sure. It's even better with Big Brother because it's happening live,
Yeah.
and like you get a lot of more info that you wouldn't get from just the shows because of the live feeds. It's very cool. But yeah, Ben, anything you want to plug or promote before we get out of here?
No, I'm very excited. The season apparently only has 3 weeks left. We have 3 weeks of Survivor 50 left. So we're actually getting close to wrapping the season up, even though there's 9 people left. I'm not sure where that's gonna go because, like, presumably we're gonna have a 6-person finale, which means 1 out of the next 2 episodes is gonna be a double boot in some capacity, I assume. So I maybe like at the 8 to 7 is gonna also be in 1 episode. I don't know, but that was very surprising to me. I thought there was 4 weeks left. Come to find out, there are 3. So yeah, we're very close to the end.
Crazy we're through it. Dylan, how does it feel to be almost through the first All-Star season live?
I mean, it's been a thrill. That's honestly, it's been my favorite season watching Survivor.
Very different, right?
Community, yeah. It's been a lot of fun. It really has like kind of like reignited a big flame, I think, for Survivor with a lot of people, and I think that's great. So, I think we had our very emotional time at the end of last week where we talked about how much we've grown and all that. But yeah, this season's been great, a lot of fun. It's just we still got 3 weeks. Could be a long 3 weeks. Could be a lot could happen. A lot to talk about. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, for me, I wore the oolong buff in memory of Stephanie. I almost wore the Ushaba. I couldn't decide like which one was more, Stephanie, but I think oolong is the one people associate Stephanie more, despite her doing better on Survivor Guatemala. But I love to love to pull out the old buffs when I can here. Other than that, check out the main channel, Wicked Everything. I've been doing more videos on there lately. Check out Those Fake Nerds for nerd and pop culture news. Wicked Sports for sports news. Of course, as Dylan said, this is Better Radio, host of all of our podcasts. As the summer gets closer, Big Brother is going to be coming out, I think, end of July, which very exciting. It'll be here before we know it, Ben, and we'll be addicted to the live feeds, watching 16 psychos interact all summer for our amusement. So very fun there. Really appreciate everybody for stopping by and checking this out, whether it's live or video on demand. And we will see you in the next one.